Good evening, cruisers. Welcome to Wednesday evening's Vacations for Canadians Cruise Chat. It's very exciting to have you here. We've got a really interesting topic to discuss tonight, and it is Japan. We've also got a full panel of experts here on the team. We've got Matt, who's going to be presenting for us this evening. He's going to be talking about Japan. I know he's got a really great trip lined up for next year that I'm sure he's going to be sharing some details about. And we've got Rick as well on the panel, and Tina and Trisha. So, as always, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear where you're from and say hello to us. And of course, if you've got any questions that you'd like to know about Japan or any other cruise at all, we're here on the panel to help you with those answers. So please just pop us a hello in the chat. Let us know you're here. And of course, if you've got any questions, by all means, fire those off as well. And we'll answer them through the presentation, or we have some time carved aside for the evening as well, or at the end of the presentation as well. So with no further ado, I'm going to pass the torch over to Matt to talk to us about these beautiful pictures that he's got here on the cherry blossoms that are in season right now in Japan. And over to you, Matt.
Thank you very much, Karen, and hello, everyone. And we're just going to get right into the introductions of Japan. And what better way than to start with the gates there and to start with a little bit of language education for you. So hello in Japanese is konnichiwa. So konnichiwa, everybody, this evening, and welcome to our cruise chat on Japan. I'm happy to discuss this. As Karen alluded to earlier, we do have an amazing hosted cruise that we're doing next year this time. So this time next year, I will be in Japan sailing into some of these amazing cruise ports that we're going to talk about this evening. So let's talk about travel to Japan. And there it is, my out of office. That'll be me next year in Japan, out of office, visiting these beautiful places. So when we're talking about Japan, so we are talking cruise chat. So a lot of the focus here obviously will be on cruising through Japan. So I've highlighted some of the ports here. Now, obviously this isn't some of them, or I mean, sorry, it isn't all of them, because there are a lot of different cruise ports depending on which cruise line you're sailing with, what time of year, the itineraries that you go on. Some of the ones that are much more focused strictly on Japan will hit a lot of the different cruise ports, especially some of the smaller, more unique ports that are harder to get into for some of those bigger ships. But these are some of the main ones here. So I'm just going to touch on those to begin. Tokyo being the first one, top left corner there. That's one of the main hubs where you will embark and disembark from if you're doing a round trip Tokyo cruise. Now, the main cruise port isn't in Tokyo. Obviously, that's the city center. The main port for Tokyo is actually Yokohama, which is about a 1-hour drive away from the city center where you see there for the tower in Tokyo. But of course, if you are doing a cruise in Japan, then you want to build that into your itinerary, whether it is a pre-cruise or a post-cruise destination. You don't want to travel all the way there with those long enduring flights and not be able to see the beautiful capital of Tokyo. Next up, you can see Kobe there. So that's right outside the cruise terminal. Beautiful marina right in Kobe. Next, beside that, as we work our way from left to right, is Kyoto. So that's actually Osaka is the cruise port for Kyoto. So if you want to visit Kyoto, that's why I put in brackets there Osaka, because if you're looking to go to Kyoto, again, it's a little bit of a bus ride to get you to Kyoto. Certainly a lot of the different excursions are focused on going there, but Osaka would be the cruise port stop for those that are traveling to Kyoto. It would be through Osaka. Working our way across Kochi, Hiroshima. We'll get into some of these photos here, and I'll tell you about the different excursions and significant landmarks that are there. But just to kind of give you a broad base, Hiroshima there, Aomori, another one of these beautiful marina. Like, they've really put a lot of attention into detail when it comes to their travel and tourism. So they really build up these amazing city landscapes that are right on the water. So you don't have to stroll far from the cruise port to be able to find a lot to do. Shimizu, that's for Mount Fuji. So you can see Mount Fuji there, obviously one of the most recognizable landmarks in all of Japan. Absolutely stunning. And of course, I captured a photo there that has the cherry blossoms right in the frame. Just an amazing landscape to be able to see firsthand. And I highlighted Sapporo just because anybody who knows international beers, the Japanese beer is Sapporo, and there's right where it comes from. So obviously, that's the main export when it comes to beers. Everybody who's ever tried sake before, obviously this is the home for sake, and almost every one of these cruise ports has some sort of sake distillery. I'm definitely going to visit one of those during my travels across Japan. We've already got it booked. I'm very much looking forward to that. But these are just, some of the cruise ports that you will come across during your travels there. There's other ones like Okinawa, obviously very significant from a military standpoint. We got Nagasaki. That's one of the ports that we're going to, but I didn't highlight it here. There's so many different ones, but I just wanted to highlight a few of the more recognizable name ones. And just already you can see by the pictures that we've highlighted here, just some of the stunning landscapes and attractions that you'll get to see when you visit some of these unbelievable destinations. So when we're talking about travel in Japan, the first thing that is good to educate yourself with is currency. And for the currency in Japan, they use the yen. It got cut off here just at the bottom of the frame, but I had the exchange rate here. So I'm just going to pull it up because I know I've got it reference of when we're working in a foreign exchange where it's simple math, where I just got to look at moving the decimal point to go from 100 to 10,000. I just got to move that dot a couple of spots. And that gives me a quick math when I'm doing any kind of shopping, or if I'm purchasing tours or anything on location, as opposed to ones that I would book in advance. Being able to do that quick math in your head when you're visiting these destinations, it's always good to have that as a reference point. So the yen is what they use. Now, there are obviously the ability to use credit cards when you're there. There are ATM machines, but ATM machines in Japan don't accept foreign debit cards. So don't rely on that as a form of being able to get local currency. Make sure that you visit that exchange, either an exchange shop for your currency, or go to your own personal bank and get your yen in advance before you go, or just rely on putting things on your credit card. But of course, then you got to start thinking about foreign transaction fees. But cash is king when you get over into Japan. And so that's why it's good to have yen on you when you are traveling through Japan. So now that we've got your interest peaked and you're thinking about when would be the good time to go, well, here are some of the things that I like to highlight when it comes to Japan, because there are cruises that go year round. Some of them will be strictly Japan. Some of them will be a mixed kind of Asian cruise that'll highlight like China, Japan, Thailand. So depending on the time of year that you go with, the cruise line that you go with, there are going to be some that'll be Japan intensive, which will be almost entirely Japanese ports. There's always got to be one international port, just with cruise and international laws, that it has to leave the country at some point for one port. So for instance, the one that we're going on next year, we're going to be going to South Korea and going to Jeju Island, which is basically the Hawaii of Asia. I cannot wait to see that. But there's always going to be that one international port on a country intensive sailing like the one we're doing for Japan. But traditionally, the shoulder seasons are going to be much better temperature wise, a lot more comfortable for you. They're also not going to have the highest population when it comes to tourism, because most of the festivals happen in the middle. So the shoulder seasons I've highlighted here are March to May, and then September to November. So outside of the summer period, which works out really well for us, because one of the biggest draws for Japan from an international tourist standpoint is, of course, the cherry blossoms that I've highlighted there. So that is this season right now. We're right in it. So March is that time when that season starts. So they start to blossom, and they kind of work their way across the country based on the different climates. But right now, I follow so many different Facebook pages of different groups that are tourism and travel focused on Japan. So we see all the pictures that are coming out right now that I've been tracking on, like, oh, the blossoms are already blooming here. Here they haven't quite opened up yet, and they're getting updates as we monitor the different ports. So it's so fantastic to be able to see kind of how that this month of March and how the seasons impact the cherry blossoms and when they open. And of course, when we're looking at weather and how our climate continues to shift, obviously that shifts the cherry blossom season as well, because it used to be so much earlier in March, and now we're starting to see later and later openings. So obviously the shoulder season is a great time travel wise to go, both from a weather perspective, and then if you're looking to go for the cherry blossoms, it fits right into that shoulder season. Now, like I said, in the middle, the festivals, there's so many different festivals that are going on there. The streets literally get shut down. Markets are opened up everywhere, and the businesses just shut down so that they can all have these different holidays that happen. The biggest festival of all is Golden Week, which actually falls right at the very end of the shoulder season. So that's when you start to see that peak start for the higher season of tourism, and with that comes the price. But the Golden Week is literally just a week solid of festivals. So this year it's happening at the end of April. So we're just over a month away from that kicking off. But it happens around the same time every year. So if you are looking to travel, say 2026 or 2027, you can anticipate that being a very, very difficult week to navigate around Japan, because there is just such a dense fixed population of people that are just celebrating all the different festivals. And the other thing to consider is just whether you're doing a cruise or land tour. Of course, we're very excited, Vacations for Canadians, that we've now launched our land tour section of Vacations for Canadians. So there's always the option for land tours as well, so that you can get a little more into the interior of Japan. But of course, you can always combine those as well, which gives you a great option when you want to extend your vacation. So whether that's a pre-cruise or post-cruise land tour, so that you can get more focused on that embarkation port. So like I was discussing with Tokyo, if you want to be able to visit landmarks and popular attractions around Tokyo, being able to add, a 4 or 5 day pre or post cruise extension onto that cruise just really kind of rounds out your whole travel experience with a visit to Japan, because there's certainly so much to see in Tokyo itself that, that's a great option to be able to add that. So again, when you want to visit, timing wise, that's going to be up to your personal comforts on whether you would want that land tour in advance or whether you'd want it at the end. For myself, I always feel a little bit run down and jet lagged from any of those long kind of flights. I've flown to Asia before, and I know that it takes me a day or two to kind of get the cobwebs out and get over that jet lag. So for me, I like the slow kind of ease into a cruise, so that by the time the cruise is done, now I'm ready to hit the ground running and really dig in on that end destination. So we've sorted out the cruise. We know we're going to make our way around. What do we do when we get to these ports? The focus obviously being on transportation. Now, a lot of this transportation is obviously going to tie into what your shore excursions are. So if you've got something booked through your cruise line, well, then of course, your transportation is going to be looked after. They're already going to have prearranged your shuttles, trains, taxis, whatever kind of transportation they got to provide for you to get you to those destinations. Especially, for instance, if we stop in Osaka and you're trying to get to Kyoto, like I said, that's an hour away. So they've arranged shuttle transportation. You're going to have a bus that's going to take you the 1 hour drive to get you to Kyoto. And then from there, be able to see all the beautiful castles and the gates and everything that's in Kyoto. However, if you're doing it on your own, you're going to want to familiarize yourself with the different transportation options. So the first one that I talk about is a train. If anybody's seen Bullet Train with Brad Pitt, Hopefully you're not going to have that kind of experience when you ride on a bullet train, but the Shikazen is the bullet train. Extremely fast. It can reach speeds of 320 kilometers an hour. So it's called bullet train for a reason. Obviously, it's the most efficient method of transportation, commonly used in Japan. It can get you to all the different large populated cities. So obviously, these rail lines aren't set up for some of the smaller cities. If you're looking to travel into the interior, especially on like a post-cruise excursion or a pre-cruise excursion, but they are definitely available for you. So that is definitely one very popular transportation option, and it is even included in some of the shore excursions. So read the details on the write-ups of your shore excursions, because it'll even outline if you saw that included in your shore excursion, and they'll include the rail passes and things like that. The next thing is buses. So obviously there are city buses for internal transportation options, but then there are also highway ones that can connect those cities. So obviously a much more slower mode of transportation, but obviously a lot more economical as well. So there is that option if you have the time that allows for it to be able to use the buses at your disposal to get yourself around. And obviously the cruise lines take advantage of these when they're trying to get you to the different destinations that are a little further removed from the cruise ports, and they will allocate the right size bus or shuttle depending on the size of your group. The last one that I want to highlight here is taxi service. So those are for the people who are much more comfortable in self-exploration. They don't want to pay the higher rates for doing the excursions through the cruise line. They'd rather just get out and explore on their own. Uber isn't used in Japan. They're kind of slowly introducing it for airport pickups, but it's definitely not the common method of transportation when it comes to rideshare or anything like that. But there are a lot of different taxi apps that are used. We encountered a lot of this when we were traveling through the Mediterranean last fall, and very similarly, it is employed in Japan. The most common one, I've already got it downloaded and set up my profile, is Go Taxi. It's the most commonly used taxi app in Japan. So obviously that's the one that I would recommend. It's the one that I'm going to be using when I'm there. Two other ones that I've been speaking with a guide in Japan just to kind of educate myself as we get ready to go, is S-Ride and Furukuru, as he said it to me. And I apologize in advance for my horrible enunciations on some of these. I'm sure I'll be a lot better at it once I get back. But those are the other two taxi apps that they recommend. But Go Taxi being the most commonly used one. It's not really, you don't want to be hailing down taxis. You can book these in advance. Very simple, very easy to use. The Go Taxi one has an English profile, so you don't get lost in the language and trying to figure it all out, which is very handy for us international travelers. Next, I'd like to talk about travel requirements. So very handy that right now there's actually clients of mine who are on the exact cruise ship doing the exact cruise destination that I will be doing 1 year from now. So we've been talking almost every other day, just trying to get a lot of feedback on, if they've encountered any issues, any kind of things that, maybe we didn't inform them about, or that just came as a surprise to them when it came to getting on and off the ship, just encountering people when they were in the population. How's the language barrier been for you? Things like that. So the first one that I want to talk about is passport. So for anybody who's commonly gone on Caribbean cruises, or even cruising around Europe or anything like that, you don't always have to have your passport on you. Usually, just as long as you have some sort of identification on you. And then I always like to recommend to people to have a picture of your passport as like a backup on your phone to mirror with your identification that you have on you. That will suffice when it comes to border security when you get to these different cruise ports. That is not the case when you get to Japan. You will have to have your passport physically on you at all times. You have to have it on you. And you want to make sure that your passport is valid for at least 6 months post-voyage. So you want to make sure that you have that on you, have it secure on you. We've been giving away some fantastic fanny belts and passport holders from Vacations for Canadians, which are great little tools to hold on to those important documents. But you're going to want to make sure you have your passport on you, as well as that supporting identification to go with it. Second one is biometrics. So some people get really uncomfortable when it comes to, facial recognition at airports or even coming off the cruise ships. Gone are a lot of the days of the long passport lines, but now you're just going up to a facial recognition scanner that scans your face, and then you get cleared by port security authorities, and then you're off and done. In Japan, everybody will be photographed and everybody will be fingerprinted. And sometimes you have to have that done multiple times during your sailing. So the example that I like to use for this is on our itinerary where we're going through Japan. And like I said, you have to have that one international port where we're going to go to South Korea. Once you go to your next destination where you are going to go to a Japanese port again, there is actually a timed disembarkation to get you off the ship. And it doesn't matter if you have an excursion, you don't have an excursion, you have no plans to get off the ship. You still got to get off the ship, and you have to go through their customs, and you will be re-photographed and re-fingerprinted. So even though they just did it 5 days ago, you will go through that process again. So it's very, very high level of security. And, honestly, at the end of the day, I think it just makes people feel more comfortable that they take it that serious. So it's just something that's good to know in advance so that you're not caught off guard by it when they start asking you for your fingerprints and photographs. This is just common practice in Japan when it comes to their border security and their customs department. The last thing is visa and vaccines. We get questions from clients sometimes that are getting ready to do these unique destinations and asking about, do I need any kind of special vaccines when I go? Is there any kind of booster shots that I need to get my vaccinations up to date? Do I need any kind of special travel visas for entry in and out of Japan? Japan, no. There's no special visa for entry into Japan. There's no special vaccines. It's just a matter of keeping them all up to date. And if ever at any time you have any concerns about any kind of illnesses that might be going on in Japan, I always recommend to visit the Travel Canada government website, and they keep track of any kind of outbreaks or anything like that that might be of a health concern for upcoming travel. So these are the things that I highlighted as good to know. And thank you, Tina, for providing this first photo here for tattoos. That's her latest artwork that she had done on her arm there. But good to know, especially for someone like myself. As you can see, my arm is all done. There are a lot of public establishments and locations where it is illegal for you to have them. It ties back to a lot of criminality and stuff like that. It was always like an indicator of people that were involved in criminal activities or involved in gangs or anything like that. And so it was just a really strong restriction that you weren't allowed access to a lot of these public locations, especially for hot springs or beaches where, if for a man, if you're going to be with your shirt off, like this is the least of my tattoos. There's so many more, but good luck figuring that out on a beach or in a hot spring or a swimming pool. So definitely things that you need to keep in mind, especially if you have tattoos. So there are establishments that may ask you to cover up, which again, for someone like myself, may be a little challenging. Driving, if you are looking to self-explore and you want to rent a car, that is totally an option that you are able to do. You just need to have an international driver's permit. You can get that at your CAA, but keep in mind they drive on the left side of the road. So if that's something that is foreign to most of us, and it's something that you don't think that you'd be comfortable with, just be forewarned. They drive on the left side of the road, and that is a bit of a learning curve, no pun intended, on driving in Japan. The last one is always, it ties into that travel season on when is the better time to go temperature wise. So everybody kind of focuses on that when they talk about weather. What is the temperature going to be like? Yeah, in the summer, it's going to be really hot. It's going to be really sticky. It's a lot like our summers. However, the weather things that they don't think about are that there are earthquakes all the time. Obviously, the magnitudes of those can be very minimal. However, if you've never been in a country where there are earthquakes, it might set you off and cause some alarm for you. Whereas you'll look at everyone else and this is just another Thursday. So, just something that you need to be aware of. However, some of those ones that are of higher magnitude can actually trigger tsunamis. So there are tsunamis that happen in Japan. So just something to be aware of. Obviously, it's a lot harder to kind of predict these kind of weather patterns and, things like that that can cause something like that. And then the other one is active volcanoes. So depending on where you're traveling, obviously any excursions or things that you're doing like that, the companies are going to make you well aware of if you're in the vicinity of any active volcanoes and how to avoid all of that, so that they don't put you at any unnecessary risk. However, for some who are adventure thrill seekers like myself, who just came back from Italy where we ATV'd on the side of an active volcano, maybe this is the kind of thing you're looking for. And there are a lot of them in Japan. So depending on your comfort levels and concerns, this is obviously something that you may want to familiarize yourself with. So just little things that are good to know, especially these three. So like I said, we were talking about shore excursions. There's three different options there when it comes to how you are going to visit these amazing locations. The first one being, of course, booking direct with the cruise line. So by booking direct with the cruise line, you get that certification, that verification, that peace of mind that you are being looked after by the cruise line. If your excursion runs late, the cruise line are made aware the ship will not leave without you, because they're already made aware through communication that's been established in advance between them and the vendor that's the shore excursion. You are looked after and you don't have to worry about the ship leaving without you. As well, if there's any issues with the cruise and they can't make it to one of the ports, you'll be refunded because it's been booked through the cruise line. So they will look after you that way. The price will be a little higher, and that is just something that I think most people who have cruised before are well versed with now. The second option being to go through a third-party company. Now, these can usually be more economical means. Obviously, they're used and they're still vetted to a certain level of extent by the companies that you book through. However, please ensure that you do your due diligence, do the research, read reviews, see how recent those reviews are, because you may have reviews that come in, but they're not very recent, which can set off some alarm bells. So do your due diligence, make sure that you research the different companies and make sure that there's some positive reviews on there, and that it's a reputable company. The ones that we have on our website are Viator, Tours by Locals, and Shore Excursion Group. For Japan, Shore Excursions Group, although Canadian based, and I will always want to be able to support our Canadian companies, are a little bit more limited when it comes to excursions in Asia. It's just obviously something that they're building towards, but they do have some for like Tokyo, Osaka, the more larger locations where there's a few more options that they can tap into. But for some of the smaller, more remote ports like Nagasaki, Hiroshima, you're not going to find a lot of options there. Whereas Tours by Locals, you're going to have somebody who lives there, who's lived there for their entire life and know that place like the back of their hand, are English-speaking guides who can literally take you to some of those unique, hard-to-find spots and really be able to get you immersed in the culture, in the food, everything like that. Great options. The last option is self-explore. So for those who don't want to book, they just want to go where the wind takes them and just walk off the ship and start exploring the areas around. Again, I would definitely recommend doing your research and homework to figure out what's around there, that you give yourself a game plan when you're getting off the ship is really what it boils down to. But you will find at some of the more populated cruise ports that there'll always be taxis hanging around there. There'll always be local tour companies that are trying to offer you tours to go to any nearby attractions and landmarks. But obviously just use a sense of caution when you're traveling with any of these companies, or, just stay within your comfort zone and try to stay close to the cruise port where you can always have that ship in the in your sight line, and see what you can visit in the close proximity of the cruise port. Now, when it comes to popular attractions, oh my gosh, I could have taken so many slides. And I mean, honestly, if you are looking to go to Japan, I could certainly talk with you about the different destinations and some of the key landmarks, features, attractions that you will want to visit when you go to these cruise ports. I have been buried in research over the last little while as we try to navigate what we're going to do on our itinerary. Which ones we're going to book direct with the cruise line versus which ones we're going to look at doing on our own and do some self-exploration. A couple of the ports we've already hired private guides, so we're definitely going to explore that option as well, so that we can have that experience with a local and have that language barrier kind of removed by having a translator right at your hip. But just some of the highlighted ones here. I mean, this first one, when I see, again, I'm going to try my best here, and I apologize in advance. The Fushimi Inari Taisha. I hope I got that one right. But it is unbelievable to watch the videos of the people walking through here and to see the scriptures and like the names and everything that are written on all these as you're passing through there, this long walkway. I mean, talk about just a stunning view as you're walking through this. Just a beautiful landmark. Dotonbori District, that's right outside of Tokyo. Outside of Osaka, which we're looking to hit. Our cruise has 2 days. It has an overnight in Osaka. So I'm definitely looking forward to this. If you're a foodie, if you want that shopping, food markets and little pop-up food vendors, this is where you want to be. And there's a river right down the middle of it. So you can do like a little boat cruise and go down the middle of the river and just take it all in. It's like Times Square with all the billboards and everything all lit up as you go down it. So you can do it by boat, or you can walk down and hit all those shops, which I definitely intend on doing. Osaka Castle, that's also offered as a shore excursion through the cruise lines, through all the third-party companies. Some of them even tie them into Dotonbori, so you would go to Osaka during the day and then come back and do Dotonbori at night. Just great landmarks. And obviously there's a lot of the history of Japan tied into the Osaka Castle. If you've ever watched the series Shogun, it is featured a lot in that series. And I mean, I'm not going to say that I use that for homework, but I definitely enjoyed that TV series in preparation for this upcoming cruise. The Torii Gates, depending on the water levels, whether the tide is in or out, that will change. And so there's, it obviously changes the look of the gates, but obviously it's a spiritual entryway. The atomic bomb dome, that's at Hiroshima, obviously tied in with, the nuclear war and the remnants of that, and is now left as a UNESCO World Heritage Site as memory and commemoration on, this smudge on our history. Nagasaki Peace Park, again tied in with the nuclear war. One that's really jumping out to me and I cannot wait is Tokyo Disney and Disney Sea, which is the second park, widely regarded by people who are big fans of Disney as the best Disney park in the world. So as popular as Orlando is, as popular as Anaheim is, Tokyo is actually regarded as the best of all of them. It's privately owned by a separate company, but they have full permission from Disney to be able to create these parks. And so because they have so much money dumped into this landmark and attraction, they really went all out in giving Disney this unbelievable international park. And then temples. Every one of these ports has stunning temples that tie into the history. There's also a lot of museums that have to do with like kamikaze pilots or, the Shogun era and, samurais. And then, I'm forgetting one right now. geishas. So there's different tea ceremonies, being able to go and see sumo wrestlers. There's so many different kinds of tour options available to you, and the beauty of being able to do one of these Japan intensive cruises is that you get opportunities to see all of them. So it's just an unbelievable destination, and I couldn't be more excited to visit it in a year's time, which is hard to wrap my head around, that we're already less than a year away now. So that's it. I could go on and on, obviously, with all the different research that I've done. For anybody who's sailing with our group next year in March, we're going to do very similar type webinars to educate everybody again on our cruise. But if you ever have any questions, feel free to shoot me a message through Facebook, or put out a post there. If you're interested in a Japan itinerary, we've got some amazing ones with the different cruise lines. Obviously, with ours, we're sailing on the Celebrity Millennium in a year's time. Again, it's a 12-night. It's very specific, intensive to Japan, with that one stop in South Korea. But hits a lot of those unique ports, which we're very much looking forward to. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Karen, and I will just say to everybody, thank you, or in Japanese, to.
Thank you, Matt. Sorry, I'm not very versed in the Japanese language, so I can't reciprocate that, but thank you. Lots of great information there, and we do appreciate it. When you're talking about the transportation, I was interesting because I've friends who've traveled there. They talk about how many people live in Japan and how it's quite a system that they have, that transportation, and it's so on time that if the train is supposed to pull in at 2:12, it's pulling in at 2:12, and if it leaves at 2:14, that's when it's going. It's really quite magical and something to see with that, that much volume, and how predictable they've been able to make it. I think our TTC has a few things to learn from that for sure. But so that was quite interesting. And I also was thinking about, when you're talking about the food and whatnot, a really fun thing to do is to go into grocery stores when you're in such a foreign place, and just to see the different product offerings and how they display things. It's kind of an adventure in itself to go into like either a dollar store or a grocery store or even a pharmacy, just to see kind of how and what they've got out there, which is kind of fun. So I do think there were a few good questions that came up. Linda, have you got any that we'd like to present to Matt?
We do. We have quite a few questions, and I think we're going to start with Laura, because she was our first question. So it's not about Japan. It's about a deal that she saw today. And I think Trisha can probably answer this one, because I think she was responding to her online as well. So she said she's looking at the Western Europe cruise for August 1st to the 8th. Where would the balcony located? How many rooms are available? Is there a group rate? If so, how does that work? How long is the sail on for? And what is the deposit? So it's the Princess one. So a lot of questions to wrap in there, but hopefully we can get you the highlights, and then you can connect directly with Trisha, and she can help you out with all that information.
Thanks, Linda. I didn't have a chance yet to do the research on the post that she had, and I had asked for some questions by email. So maybe we can put this one off, and I can do a little research while you answer the other questions.
Sure, that's no problem at all. We can certainly do that. So we're going to slide up here, and we're going to go to Kate. Is there a favorite or effective translator app? I find some are hit and miss.
Yeah, and I mean, I've done a lot of foreign travel where I've had to use Google Translate. I like that I have the camera option, especially when it comes to menus or signage, that you can use the camera feature on Google Translator and be able to hold it up to the sign or hold it up to the map, give it a little time to do its translation, keep your camera steady, and then you'll usually get, at least the majority of what you're trying to translate on the screen for you, especially when it comes to menus. As Karen alluded to, with all the amazing food that's there, sometimes it's very well camouflaged and you have no idea what it is you're eating, especially for some of the more unique food options. So having a sign right next to the market that tells you what some of them are, there's been a lot of international places where I've traveled where I've ordered food just by pictures. So rather than trying to read the menu, I'm just pointing at the photo and going, that looks delicious. I will try that. But having something like Google Translate is definitely a handy tool to have.
Yeah, that's the one that I've used too.
Okay. Anybody else have any that they've used that they want to share before we go to the next question?
Google is king.
All right, Google it is. Okay, so Megan is asking for taxi services. I'm assuming data Wi-Fi will be required. How far in advance can you book the service? We do not do Wi-Fi on ships, so just curious.
I'm not sure
I'd
on
recommend
the
that she
time
does
frame.
get data for on
Yeah.
land. It's one thing to be on a contained ship with no internet. But when you're out in a foreign country, I would always make sure you at least have the ability to turn your phone on and get data if you had to, just as a safety issue.
I always
Yeah, and just from talking to the guide that I've been working with, sorry, Rick, just the guide that I've been talking to for Japan, for the taxi app for Japan, it does have similarities to Uber in the fact that it will give you like a license plate. So there is like a reference to the vehicle that you are expecting. So while the taxi cabs may all look the same, you're still going to want to know which taxi you ordered. So having that reference, you're still going to have connectivity. Because if you like say order in advance on the ship and you have Wi-Fi on the ship, obviously Megan's saying she doesn't, but for those who maybe rely on ordering in advance when they're on the ship and have Wi-Fi and then they get off the ship and don't have that connectivity anymore, you know, you're going to lose that ability to communicate with them, with your driver or anything like that once you're off the ship. So it might be something you have to factor into your budget.
Yeah, and the other thing too, I would say, like, you know, for me, I might be a little bit more of a risk taker, so I might try and do something on my own. But if you're risk adverse, I would always just do a short excursion with the cruise line, and then you don't have to worry about making sure you have transportation there and from. If you're staying after the fact or going in early, we can help with that. I know I was in Japan about a year and a half ago, and we booked a company that put together our hotel, our transfers, and our excursions. So we didn't have to worry about that, and it was pretty seamless. Like, we didn't have to, you know, and I was surprised at how there wasn't really a language barrier. There's a lot of English there, so we didn't really have very many struggles when we did Japan, and we weren't on a cruise ship.
I always downloaded an eSIM onto my phone, and you get the local. You don't get any charges. You just pay for the eSIM for the time you're on that island or country, and you pay a fixed rate, and you're all set. I always do that for every trip I do. It doesn't work on the ship; it works on the land.
Yep, same.
Yeah, just like Daryl just posted there. I use Air Allo as well.
Do you want to put Daryl's up there? That's pretty common, that one. Good recommendation for Anissa.
Oh, hold on a second. I'm looking. I gotta switch back here.
Second to last one.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, the rates differ by country, for the duration, but you know, choose the right plan for you and the duration that you're going to need, and you're all set.
Okay, perfect. All right. Sorry, just working my way through these. Okay. Monica asked, are mosquitoes a problem there? So I think Karen's been, right?
No, we were actually supposed to be there
No?
right now, but we had a change of plans. We're supposed to be doing the Millennium back to back, but so I don't have an answer about the mosquito issue in Japan, but maybe Tina's got some experience there.
I honestly don't remember. I'm hoping Rick's Googling it right now. I don't remember mosquitoes being an issue.
That's probably a good sign.
My travel doctor always tells me a million things on how to prevent mosquitoes. So I think they must have been, but I don't recall getting any bites at all.
I have it here. Our friend Google came and just in time.
Yes, good.
Mosquitoes are a common part of Japanese summer, becoming active when temperatures reach 25 Celsius, often after April.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and because so many of these different
I
places that you might go to visit are
forested.
forested areas, anytime you're in a forested area or there's wetlands or anything like that, you're going to have a mosquito population. And because there's a lot of water formations and a lot of forested area, you're gonna encounter mosquitoes.
Great. Well, not great that you're encountering mosquitoes, but great answers, guys. Okay, so we have a question from Jennifer here. How far in advance should someone
I want
book a
Rick to answer
Japan
this
cruise?
as soon as you can, because especially for one like Matt's hosted cruise, you got to book it fast because it's cherry blossom time is one of the peak demand periods. So over a year in advance, I'm sure, for that one.
Absolutely. I think those cabins that we had on Matt's hosted cruise were sold out a year ago, and he's still a year away from his cruise. I don't know if there's any cabins left, but I know that our personal space was sold out immediately.
Yeah, the entire ship is sold out. There's not one cabin from interior all the way to suites. The entire ship is sold out, and we're a year away.
I have clients on the on Japan cruise right now, similar to Matt, and I sold those year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yep, it's a hot spot for sure. Everybody's going to Japan these days.
All right, so what we're hearing is book now.
2027, book for 2027.
Perfect. Okay, sorry, I just need to just need to find that one. There we go. Sorry, guys. All right, and next question is from Kate. Matt, is this the webinar you were mentioning when we were discussing the March 2027 cruise?
2026, but yes, Kate and I were actually talking about it, that I was going to do a webinar for specific to our group. However, I'm still going to post it when I do it for, the entire agency, so that if we have other, potential travelers who are just interested in something, again, focused on Japan, I mean, it's going to obviously be a lot more tied in with the cruise line and the excursions that are offered by the cruise line, things like that. But again, for people who are avid cruisers on Celebrity and looking for a more exotic location, I'm more than happy to have them sit in on our webinar. But for these hosted groups, when we go to somewhere a little more exotic, I like to do specific webinars for that group just to get them a little bit more education about our specific itinerary. But always welcome to have other people join us who may not necessarily be sailing with us at that time.
Excellent. Thanks, Matt. Okay, next question. Oh, okay. Also, for a translation app, Google Translate works well, but you can also use ChatGPT translation in real time. Handy.
That's a cool feature.
All right.
Daryl is actually coming on our cruise.
Okay, and Stephen is asking, what is the date of Matt's cruise in Japan? I think maybe Stephen is inspired.
Well, it is from the 16th to the 28th of March of next year. I did actually just look at that sailing while we were having this discussion, and then we actually have one cabin on this otherwise entirely sold out ship in Aqua Class for the Celebrity Millennium on an otherwise sold out ship. We are dearly clutching to this one cabin. I wasn't even sure we had one, but I went and looked, and apparently we do still have one. So for a ship that is entirely sold out, we have one cabin on that ship still available for any of our clients. So the 16th to the 28th, round trip out of Tokyo. The cruise port is Yokohama for Japan, but it is 12 nights, and we have 3 sea days, otherwise 9 cruise ports that we hit, including, 8 cruise ports because we have an overnight in Osaka / Kyoto.
Matt, that Aqua Class is in our group?
It's in the U.S. It's in the
Okay.
U.S. rates under Nexion.
Okay.
So if anybody
Great.
is looking, we have one on the class.
So one lucky person can join Matt, or one lucky couple, I guess. It's double occupancy. So, all right. And Laura's question, I just was chatting with Trisha behind the scenes, and I believe that they have connected. So that question we're going to put in the parking lot. Is that right, Trisha? You're already connected with Laura?
Yeah, we're answering, but just for anybody, yeah, we have quite a few rooms available. And the deposit for this sailing is $676, with the final payment would be due May 3rd, 2026. It is I lost it now. It's a Princess Cruise that we advertised today.
Excellent. All right. Fantastic.
And I saw Megan's comments that she was saying that she would go to Japan just for Disney. And if Disney is an attraction to hit those kind of theme parks, for that overnight that we do in Osaka, the cruise port in Osaka is literally one bridge separated from Universal Studios Japan. So for the 2 nights that we are in Japan, are in Osaka in Japan, Universal Studios Japan is literally right across the river that we pull into for our cruise port. So in our 2 days in Osaka, my first day in Osaka will be at Universal Studios doing all the Super Mario rides with my then will be 9-year-old daughter, the most world traveled kid ever. We will be doing Universal Studios Japan in addition to 2 days in Disney after the cruise.
Okay, so I guess
Matt, you got a
Megan's
hot
the one you
lead.
all have to
Pretty
put up
rich.
against.
No, definitely
right.
join us, Vivian. We're going to do some unique events on the ship. We've already been in talks with Celebrity about trying to organize a special sushi rolling class on the Celebrity Millennium. Obviously we're very excited about doing a very unique itinerary like Japan and being able to offer some exciting events to our hosted group.
Yeah, and also too, like if you do want to go in 2026, feel free to reach out. I'm sure there's other cruise lines or ships different dates that have availability. We just have to do a search. Yeah.
So Kate says Harry Potter World. So do you know? Did they have Harry Potter World there?
There is in Universal. There is like a Harry Potter section to Universal. I mean, it's not just Super Mario. We're just very excited about that because like Universal Orlando is just getting it with the addition of Epic Universe. But Japan has had that for quite some time, as well as we're going to go through a whole Hello Kitty overload, I'm sure, while we're there. So we're bracing ourselves for that portion of our trip. But yeah, there's a lot of different theme parks that are all focused on different characters, not just Universal and Disney. There's all kinds of them that are out there.
Excellent. All right,
Can
we have another
can
question.
you go back to Megan's comment for a second?
Sorry, what did you want me to go back to?
Megan's comment.
Which one?
Yeah.
So I would just say to Megan, so if you've been to Europe, I don't know, I'm not sure what city your gateway is, but you're going from Toronto to Athens, you're 9 hours. Toronto to Tokyo is only 12 hours. So it was literally only 3 hours longer, and they run direct flights all the time. So it's long, but it is doable.
Yeah, and some of the guests that we've been talking to, they're actually going to fly to Vancouver and do an overnight in Vancouver to break it up. So that way that chews into that time difference and gives you a little bit of a breather in between. So you don't have one long single flight. You can fly into Vancouver, spend some time there, get yourself a bit adjusted on time zone, and then do the rest to go over the ocean and get yourself into Japan.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and for all those Disney fanatics, we do have our Magical Vacations for Canadians division now, and Sherry's going to be doing a presentation on all things Disney coming up later on in June. But you have a fellow Disney nut, for lack of a better word, in Sherry. She is loves all things Disney. So next question is from Cynthia, and she says, do you have any recommendations on local guides for Osaka, Kyoto, and or Tokyo and Yokohama? I hope I didn't brutalize those. I am on the same cruise as you, and I'm struggling on the excursion part, LOL. So many choices.
There are so many choices. I would definitely say that Tours by Locals is a great starting point. Cynthia, what I will recommend is if you are on the same cruise as I am, there is actually a Facebook page that's dedicated to just the Celebrity Millennium with Japan, and it is chock full of amazing information from people who are either there right now, just got back, are about to go, where they're just asking questions, and those who have just returned are answering a lot of those and addressing any of those concerns. This is where I found my guide. So I didn't even have to go through Tours by Locals for the guide that I have for our one destination. We actually found him through this Facebook page. We connected through WhatsApp. And it has been amazing going back and forth with him and building a custom itinerary for us, knowing that we have a 9-year-old with us and being able to basically lay out an entire day and know that we have a local who speaks the language who's going to be able to take us through this planned itinerary. I'm beyond stoked. And so while social media can be a real misleading source of information, it can also be a great source of information when you have the right page. And this Celebrity Millennium page for Japan is amazing. And if you want to connect with me after this is all over, I can send you the link so that you can join the page. And it is an invaluable source of information for me leading up to this.
Fantastic. So I think that wraps it up for our questions. And we're getting down to the final minutes of Cruise Chat. So
Can I just add one comment?
Of course you can.
Anyone who talks to me about their bucket list in the last year or two, I've always asked, is Japan on your bucket list? If they don't mention Japan, and if they say no, my comment back is it should be. It is such a safe, clean, beautiful country. The people are amazing. I've never had sushi like that in my life. It's so good. They make it fresh right in front of you. It was just, I can't wait to get back there. It really was a fantastic vacation.
And something so unique too, which is really
There's
exciting.
one classroom.
What was that? Sorry.
Well, I was saying there's one aqua classroom left. We can get Tina in there and she can come with us.
I don't want to ride so much. I don't want to ride in your parade.
But yeah, I can echo what Tina said, because all the feedback, all the research that I've done is just how incredibly clean it is there everywhere. And just like how detailed they are at like just street cleaning and stuff like that, how serious they take all that. And
do you know they don't even have garbages on their streets? People just take their garbage home and throw it out. And there's no garbage. They don't litter.
Yeah.
Amazing. So Linda, it looks like you've got our giveaway queued up. What have we got to give away this evening? We've had a very active group here, so lots of people.
I know. And you know what? I found a secret stash of a couple of things that came to us from Norwegian, our supplier of the month. And so I'm going to give those away today. And hopefully, I'm going to just put my camera on. And hopefully you can see these. So we have a wireless speaker, perfect for travel, and a little ship stress ball that there's plastic on it, so I'm not touching it, but you can squeeze it and take all your stresses out. And then once you get on the ship, you can use your speaker and enjoy some tunes. So that is what we're giving away today. And I'm just gonna switch to a screen share. See, the reason I keep my camera off is because I have a cat who's a big pain in the butt, and I'm constantly tossing him off my desk. So hopefully everybody can see that. Okay, so once again, if it draws us, we will redraw, but hopefully it draws it's one of our guests tonight on the panel. Stephen, congratulations. Awesome. So I will put my email in the chat, and you can send me your information. I'll get that out to you.
Congratulations, Stephen. Thank you for joining us. And thank you to everybody for joining us tonight. We had a very lively discussion. Thank you for all of your hard work, Matt, in putting this together for us. It's a really great showcase of how passionate we are about the places we travel and the places our clients travel as well. So, it was very exciting to hear all that you have to say and all the planning you put into your next year's travel cruise, and you're hosted. So it's going to be a good one. And next week, we're going to be back here at 7 p.m. as we are every Wednesday. So we're always excited to see you. And we're going to be talking about the best time to plan your cruise, or best time to book your cruise, actually. So some tips and pointers on that. I will be hosting that particular segment, and we'll have a great panel as well. So again, if you've got any questions about cruises, we're always available by chat, by email, by telephone. So don't hesitate to reach out to us if you've got some cruise planning that you want to start with, or you've got something underway. We're always here to help, and we're glad that you joined us tonight. So thank you so much, and have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Night, everyone.
Bye.